All right, day one, we're out fueling them up. We're gonna hit the campsite today. I'm doing the 4Runner today. The Tundra's getting fuel. Tacoma's getting fuel. We're gonna do some off-roading on a rimrock trail and then set up camp. So should be a fun day. And so it began. For the next 3 days, we went camping with Toyota. We went through the mountainside between Ouray and Moab. We'd drive all day, camp at night, drive all day, camp at night. It was the same routine over and over again. The terrain was always varied. So we'd have some up mountains, some through like narrow passages, through water. I mean, we really challenged these vehicles in all different situations. This is the new 2019 Toyota TRD Pros. It's going to be Tacoma, 4Runner, and Tundra. Toyota likes putting these three together as part of a set, even though each one's a little bit different. It's kind of interesting. These were introduced in 2014. They were updated in 2018 at the Chicago Auto Show. What we're looking for the 2019 models is they're all going to have new Fox 2.5-inch internal bypass shocks. The Tacoma TRD Pro is going to offer a desert air intake, which you can see a video above. I'll link to it. As far as that allows dirty air to not enter the engine so badly, really, and it keeps the engine a lot cleaner. The 4Runner is going to have a new roof rack, and the Tundra TRD Pro is going to have our rigid fog lights and BBS wheels. We'll get to those wheels in a minute. The three colors are super white, midnight black, and voodoo blue. We only drove the super whites. The Tacoma, starting with Tacoma first, it has a 46 millimeter pistons, 8 bypass zones in the front, 11 bypass zones in the back. It has 2-inch piggyback reservoirs. This helps with shock fade. As you use your shocks, the oil heats up, and then the shocks don't work as well. And so when you have a bypass, it allows them to keep cool and allows them to keep performing for you. Comes with the JBL audio system standard, and it also has the desert air intake, which you talked about. It has the LED fog lights. So I was looking for Rigid Industries LED fog lights. That's what you need to know on that one. The Tundra has the same Fox 2.5-inch shocks, 46 millimeter. The front is 11 bypass zones. The back is 12 bypass zones. It's going to have a 2 inches more of travel or of wheel travel in the rear. It has 2 inches of lift on the Tacoma and the 4Runner. Both have 1 inch of lift. It has the rigid LED fog lights on the Tundra and has 18-inch BBS forged aluminum 5-spoke satin black wheels. That's a lot to say about the wheels. They basically, what Toyota's saying is they reduce the unsprung mass by 3.35 pounds per wheel, and that improves cornering response, overall ride quality. Throughout our trip, we had the wheels were aired down, so ride quality was improved over all the terrain we're going on. But I digress. 4Runner. The 4Runner is kind of the unsung hero of all three of these vehicles. The one you don't hear a lot about is has a 1-inch lift as well, and it has the 1-inch additional wheel travel. Same 46 millimeter pistons, 7 bypass zones on this one, 11 bypass zones in the rear, and it's got the new roof rack that we talked about earlier. 17-inch wheels, 1-inch wider track on the front for the tires, and it's got the Intune Premium JBL audio. All three models have the new Toyota Safety Sense system, which is now standard across the lineup. You have pre-collision system with pedestrian detection, lane departure alert with sway warning system. That's the one that looks like a coffee cup. If you start swaying so much, it will alert you and say, hey, why don't you pull over and stop a little bit? Automatic high beams and high-speed dynamic radar cruise control. If you want to know more about that, check out our video with the Tacoma I took camping. So lots of great features in these new vehicles. It's a solid group. It's interesting how they group them together. Each one's a little bit different. They all three had performed pretty well for all of us. The Tundra does not have the crawl control or the locking rear differential, but it doesn't really matter. It has enough power in the engine; it just climbed up the hill anyways. Whereas the Tacoma needed it, and the 4Runner needed it. As I'll get to in a little bit, I think there's some improvements needed as far as the engine. And I keep thinking that if Toyota's going to keep moving forward with the 4Runner, it really is a need for an update. And they should take the 4Runner interior and swap it with like the Tacoma interior and really do some upgrading. But here, let's get back to the video. All right, we've had a few days of traveling here, doing some camping with these TRD Pros, and I kind of wanted to go over what the differences are after days behind the wheel. So first off, we have the 2019 Tacoma TRD Pro. This is the new Tacoma for this year, the TRD version. We have the desert air intake that I've talked about. It brings in the fine particles at the top, goes down in the air box. It does not get the engine so dusty and dirty, and more reliable, doesn't get it full of dirt. This truck is just a solid truck. It's a solid, reliable vehicle. I will tell you that I'm not a big fan of the V6 in this. Off-road, 4 low, it's got plenty of torque. Really crawls well. Crawl control works great in this. You can get upside the hills, no problems. However, on the highway, it just feels slow. It just doesn't respond well. It's almost gutless, you could say. There's supposed to be an Atkinson's cycle in here, which is a fuel-saving cycle. And actually, sorry, there is an Atkinson cycle in here. But I just don't feel like the fuel savings really match up with what you're losing as far as horsepower. It could just be better. I think in this application, there should be some discussion about maybe a turbocharged engine to allow you that on-highway road and around town, a little bit more spirited driving situation versus off-road where it's really going to shine. But if you're doing a lot of off-roading, the short wheelbase and the desert snorkel air intake, or the not snorkel, the desert air intake, sorry. You always want to say snorkel. It's not water fording. It's really for clean air. This is really tough to beat. It's got the rear locker as well, and so it's a solid rig. We do have a 1-inch lift on this. I will check that. I believe it's 1-inch lift. And we have new wheels and tires on it, so it's a solid rig. Next we have the 4Runner. I've talked a little bit about this before in other videos. It's really the unsung hero of the Toyota lineup. This was redone in 2013. Older generations, it's the oldest one out of these TRD Pros. I think you really can tell on the inside. The inside interior could really do a nice once over. Actually would probably take the Tacoma interior and put in this, and it really would make it a lot better. It's again a solid rig. We saw these a lot at FJ Summit. They do a lot of the steel cage bumpers on the front and back, and it really is a really good off-road vehicle. It's got a great wheelbase. All your gear is covered because it's got the nice back end. The seats I think are more comfortable than they are in the Tacoma. But again, it's like if they can do that interior dash over there in Tacoma, in this would be even better. I would talk about seats for 1 minute on the Tacoma, go back to that. A lot of people complain about the seats being too low. I've seen a lot of tall guys have issues with that. I don't have a problem with that. Thankfully my height worked for me in that aspect, but I completely can see where the seat would be an issue. And I will tell you, entry exit, I'm not a big fan of Tacoma on entry exit. I've learned this. I keep hitting myself with the steering wheel, the way I have the seat pulled in. And so much more, I noticed that getting the passenger seat, it's much easier for me to get the passenger seat and driver's seat with a steering wheel like that. So the last model this year is the new Tundra TRD Pro. Big favorite of this. I love this truck. I've owned it. I've driven it since 2013, every generation of it. I love the new LED lights, the rigid LED lights here as well. It's got the new TSS system. Actually, all of these have it, except for there's differences with the 4Runner. It's going to be right here. This is your it's your cruise control. Keeps the vehicles in front of you at a safe distance. It's the whatever they use it. I'll put it down below. That's the official term for it. I like the power in this. This is the 5.7 liter V8. It's a really strong engine. It's the same engine in the Land Cruiser, same engine they use in the Sequoia. It's throughout their lineup. It's a great engine, lots of power. Even though it has a longer wheelbase and is missing the rear locker, does not have one, even though it doesn't have that. It doesn't have crawl control. You have so much power, you just powered over the climbs. That wasn't a concern at all. Great resale value. I love the styling. I just think that they did a great job in this package, and this truck is really comfortable to drive. I enjoy being in it. It is a big truck. The rear seats are huge. You have lots of leg room. If you haven't been in Tundra lately, these rear seats do fold up, but they kind of missed it because there's no under seat storage. That'd be something you really need. But the greatest part about this truck is it sounds cool too. Not only do you have the big engine, really powerful, it's got the Trd Pro Exhaust on it. That is just a great sounding exhaust, and it really makes me wonder why those two guys don't have it, because if you're going to do that, let's be consistent throughout the lineup. These do have new Fox shocks throughout, so it's a much better suspension than it has been before. I shouldn't say much better. It was Bilstein before. I can't tell a big difference between them two. So it's just a new shock setup. Maybe name only. They're kind of playing on that because Fox is so popular, but it just rides pretty well. Even empty bed, I had a great time. It was easy to drive, easy to ride in. So that's what we're doing. You can see they're all muddy. We've been going through water fords. We've been these are clinks. I just went through some water and had a little fun. But we have you
beating these up, getting nice and dirty, and having a good time here. So hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you follow us on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. I'll try to get a shadow here so you can see my face. How's that? No. So make sure you follow us. Follow us on pickuptrucktalk.com. Send me a hate mail at tim@pickuptruck.com. And thanks for watching. And we'll see you down the road.